Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Do you feel like you're not a real writer? Do you lack confidence and feel like, who am I to decide that I'm a writer, that I can write a book? Well, if you do, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome today and how you can navigate through that and never feel like an imposter again. Wow, big claim, right? Let's talk about that today.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Amante channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia Amante, and I'm super happy to be here with you today to talk about this term that we hear a lot out there, right? Imposter syndrome. What does that mean, and why do people feel like that? It appears that anytime that someone is doing something new, that they feel like an imposter, or that they have this imposter syndrome. So why does it have to be a syndrome? A syndrome is something that signals that there's something wrong, that there's a disease. For a long time, I wondered if it was even a real thing, right? Isn't it natural to feel kind of out of sorts when we're trying something new because it's something that we haven't done? Why does it have to be a syndrome? Why does it have to be something that is wrong with us? Why isn't it just natural that we're not feeling completely comfortable when we're trying something new? Well, let me start by telling you from a writer's perspective that there is nothing wrong with you if you feel like you're not a real writer. Or that you don't know what you're doing, because everybody feels like that way. Even professional writers that have been doing this a long time feel that sometimes they just got lucky, right? Or that they're not as good as other people think that they are, or that whatever, right? Everybody feels that they're an imposter, if you want to use that word, at some point, because we all sometimes lack a little confidence. We're never sure that our stories are going to be as good as we think they are, or maybe as good as the last story that we wrote. So there's a little of that, and it's completely natural because every writer feels this way. So if you're a brand new writer and you feel this imposter syndrome, I want to tell you, you're not alone. Everybody feels this way at some point, almost all the time throughout their story. As they're writing their book, at some point they feel like either the story is terrible and they don't know what they're doing, or again, that they just got lucky with all the other books that they actually managed to publish and sell to publishers, and that this one is just terrible because now the truth is coming out. They're not really as good as people think they are. So you're not alone. This is something that's completely natural. If you're a writer, you're going to feel this way. So you don't have a syndrome. You just have an artist. You're an artist. And all artists, all writers feel this way sometimes. So I just wonder if we can come up with maybe another term rather than saying we have a syndrome, so that we have a disease or we have something that's wrong with us. Can we come up with something else? Well, first of all, what are some of the feelings or traits that people have when they feel this imposter syndrome? Well, they might feel some anxiety, right? Feel a little anxious. They might feel doubt, because they might doubt that their work is good. They might have a feeling of worthlessness, like they're just, that their work is worthless or what they're doing is worthless, and they just don't feel like what they're doing is of any value. They might simply lack confidence, that they're just not good enough, right? Or they might just feel like a liar or a fraud, like I'm pretending to be a writer, I'm really not a writer. So these are the symptoms, right, of imposter syndrome. So I want to kind of turn this around. So I don't want to think about it as a syndrome, because I don't. It doesn't feel good, and there's no reason to label ourselves that way. So I want to share with you what might really be going on when we have these symptoms, okay? These symptoms of anxiety, of doubt, of all of these things. So let's talk first about anxiety. So what it is that you're really feeling is you're feeling this sort of nervous excitement, okay? It feels like anxiety, but it's really just an excitement for what you're doing. So you're trying something new, and there's this like degree of anticipation, right? Is this going to be good? Am I going to be good? This story, I'm really excited about the story, but I'm not sure if anybody's going to like it, right? So there's this like anticipation, there's this excitement, but the more you think about it, the more that anxiety type feeling starts to come in, right? So what I want you to do is think of it as, I'm just kind of really excited about this. I'm not anxious about it. I'm just excited about how this is going to turn out. I'm wondering how it's going to turn out. I'm not quite sure yet. So I'm really excited about starting this new thing. And it happens all the time, right? So if you get, it happened to you when you were a kid and you were going from like elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school. It was something new and you were really excited about what was going to happen, but you were kind of nervous about it too, right? Or when we get a new pet or when something new happens, we always feel this way. And once we understand what's happening, once we feel more at home, then we start to feel better. Okay, the second thing or a symptom, right, is that feeling of doubt. You're doubting yourself and whether you can do something. That's why you feel like an imposter, because you just kind of doubt that you can do something. And I want you to replace that with belief, which is the opposite, right, of doubt. If we're doubting something, we don't believe something. I want you to think about believing in it. So if you can doubt yourself, you can also believe in yourself, right? Understand that when you haven't done something, again, it's very natural to wonder if you can do it. But it's not as natural to think you can do it, right? Because we tend to think in the negative more than in the positive. So rather than thinking doubt, rather than wondering about all the things that can go wrong or why you can't do something, I want you to replace that with believing in it. So if you love something, you want to do it, you want to be a writer, right? You want to, obviously, because that's why you're doing this. You must have somewhere inside of you this little kernel of belief that you can do it, that you can be a writer, because that's, if you want to do it, then that means you probably can. Somewhere along the way, somebody has told you that you're a good writer, or you've written something that you were proud of, and so you believe. So hold on to that belief instead of the doubt. Rather than thinking of all the ways that this could fail, that you could do it wrong, think of all the ways that you can actually be successful and do it right. So anytime that you start to feel that doubt come in, say, no, I believe that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I believe that I can write a good story. I believe that people are going to love reading this story. Okay, so change that doubt to belief. Okay, the next one is that feeling of worthlessness. Like, why do I feel good enough to do this? Or you might have some thought like, who am I to think that I can write a novel, right? Or a book? Well, you need to change that to feeling valuable rather than feeling worthless. Now, why? Because whether you write a book or not, right? Whether you get it published, whether you succeed in this or not, your sense of value is not in writing that book, right? It is in you. You have the right to write this book, whether it turns out great or not, whether it's wonderful or not. So even if it turns out that it's terrible, okay, you're still valuable. I think our society, we have this sort of lack of we feel more worthless than we should, right? And it doesn't seem that way because people seem, all the selfies and all the things that are happening out there, that maybe people think too much of themselves. But I think that is a symptom of feeling of worthlessness that our society has. And we need to realize that we're valuable without all that stuff. We don't need to be have a million selfies. We don't need to prove anything to anybody else. We don't need to have an amazing book to show that we are valuable. We already are. So just remind yourself of that, right? That it doesn't matter if you find yourself asking, who am I to think that I can write a book? Well, I am the person that has a story to tell, and I want to try and tell it. That's who you are, and and there's no value in there, and value or not, right? It's not, no worthlessness or sense of value that's not connected to your story. It's not connected to the creativity. You just have the right to be creative and to create something wonderful for yourself, something that you like and something that you enjoy, whether it turns out to be amazing or not. And I think if we learn to value ourselves more, we're going to feel less of that anxiety and more of the excitement and more of the joy of actually being able to create, rather than that anxiety of whether it's going to turn out well, because we're not really going to care if it turns out wonderful. It's more of just being able to express ourselves and create a wonderful story and finding value in ourselves, again, because we are, not because of this story that we're writing. Okay, the next symptom of imposter syndrome is that you lack confidence in yourself, right? So that's why you're doubting. That's why you're feeling anxiety, because you don't have the confidence in yourself as a writer. And so what you need to replace that with is courage. You need to be courageous. So and what you're really feeling is fear, right? You're really afraid that it's not going to turn out well, that you're going to make a fool of yourself, all of these things, right? Somebody's going to find out that you're not as good of a writer as you're saying you are, or whatever, right? That's what causes this lack of confidence and this fear. Now, the way that we become more confident and in ourselves is we just need to be more courageous. We need to go out there and do it. So the more you write, the more you do it, the more you learn about writing, the more you prepare yourself to be a writer, the less you're going to feel that lack of confidence, right, in yourself. You're going to feel more confident the more you do it. So to get rid of that fear, to get rid of that lack of confidence, you just need to be courageous and try things. Just be afraid and do it anyways. Okay, do it until you feel like you are actually getting better and that your story's getting better, you're getting stronger as a writer. So you have to be more courageous if you want to get rid of that lack of confidence. Okay, and that last symptom is the one of feeling like a liar, like you're really saying you're right and you're really not, right? That's what that imposter part is about. And this is the only part that I think is valid because you are new, right? You're new at this. So you're not an imposter, you just are new, right? So I want you to replace this with, I'm not an imposter, I'm a novice. I'm a new person, I'm just learning this. And so if I'm not perfect, it's because I'm brand new at this. I'm just learning it. If I if my story isn't amazing, it's just because I'm still learning. I'm still new. So it's okay I feel like we don't allow ourselves to be new at something, right? To start learning something. We just want to jump in there and be perfect from the beginning. I remember when I first started teaching elementary school and I went to college, I got my degree, I had my credential, I was ready, right? I'd been taught how to be a teacher, but I really had not. So when I got into the classroom, you feel that, that imposter syndrome, which is you feel that anxiety, you feel that doubt, you feel like, I'm really, like they said I was a teacher, but I'm really not a teacher, right? I have never done this before. But I jumped in there. I was courageous and I put my knowledge to work and I tried it in real life to see how it worked. Some things worked great, some things did not. Some things failed terribly. And some things I got better at. The longer I taught, the more I created lesson plans, the more I became, was comfortable with the kids and motivating them, inspiring them, all of that stuff. So by the time I left teaching elementary school, I still teach, college level, but by the time I left there, I didn't feel like an imposter anymore. Why? Because I had been a teacher for many years. I had been doing it at that point. So I was no longer a novice. I was a teacher, right? So I didn't have to feel like an imposter because I had been doing it. So if you're just starting out writing, you're just now learning how to do it, of course you're going to feel like you don't really know what you're doing or like you are, a fake or a liar, but you're not. You're just new. So don't think of it as being an imposter. Think of it as being a novice, as somebody who's just learning, who's just starting out, who's going to get better with time. The longer you do it, the better you're going to be. So I no longer want you to think of yourself as having imposter syndrome, of having something wrong with you, because you don't, right? So we're going to replace this with a new thought. And I wrote it down because it's long. So we don't have imposter syndrome. What we are is we are an excited, courageous novice who has value to share things, right? And believes in ourselves and our gifts. So if you can do all that, believe in yourself, be courageous, know that you're new, that you're just learning, and still go out there and try to be a writer. You don't worry about all those other feelings. They will go away the longer that you do this. So we have to learn to let go of this disorder, right? This problem that we have labeled ourselves with. So are you going to feel that way? Sure. Do I feel this way sometimes? Sure. The only way to get rid of these feelings is to actively just do the writing and know that you're going to get better. Know that you're just starting out. Know that you are excited about this and maybe a little nervous, and that's okay. Know that the longer you do it, the better you're going to get, the more knowledge you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be. So you need to be more courageous. You need to be more, less letting go of the fear and trying it anyways. And if you fail, that's okay, because your value is not determined on whether this project, this writing, this book that you're writing does well or not, because you had fun creating it, and that's the important part. The problem with calling something a syndrome and feeling like that is, that you have something, you have this disorder, you have this problem, is that anytime that you have something like a syndrome, right, it feels permanent. It feels like you can't get rid of it, like you can't move forward. And so that's why I don't want you to think of it that way anymore. You don't have anything. You're just having some natural feelings. And then you're going to work through these feelings by doing the thing that you're doing, by writing, and then getting better and feeling better about it. So you don't have something, you just have some natural feelings, and feel them, understand why you have them, because you're new and you're just learning something, and then it'll go away. So it's not that you're not going to have these feelings, right? Because again, I said every writer does, right? So when I feel doubt, like I doubt that my last writing project is going to do well, or my current writing project, whatever, right? If I feel that doubt, then I just ask myself, why do I feel that way? Do I feel that way because I think the story isn't good enough? Yes or no. If I feel like it's not good enough, then I need to, what can I do to make it a better story? If I feel that the story is good enough, then okay, why am I doubting that it's going to do well? Do I feel like maybe it's not going to reach the readers that I want it to reach? If so, what can I do about that? So you want to work through those feelings so that you can get rid of them over time, right? What is it that you're done, and what is it that you're fearful about? Do you feel you feel lack of confidence because you don't have enough, your skills aren't strong enough? Then what can you do to fix that? Maybe fix those skills a little bit, right? Learn a little bit more so that you can make yourself feel better, more confident, by asking yourself, why am I feeling these feelings? And then working to get rid of those feelings. Once you acknowledge these feelings and you're able to work through them, and you'll feel better, right? You won't feel this imposter syndrome anymore, because you're actually working with the real feelings that are underneath it all, not this crazy label that you can't do anything about. Writing is difficult, and we all know that. So the best thing that we can do is just go with the flow and be kind to ourselves. Another thing you don't want to do actually is compare yourselves to other people. So sometimes we feel like an imposter. We feel that we're not good enough because we're comparing ourselves to maybe experts, or maybe people who have written for a long time. So you don't want to do that, especially because they probably have their own insecurities, right? We think that they don't. We think that because they're experts, because they've been writing for a long time, because they're on the New York Times bestseller list, that they don't have those same insecurities that you have. And it's not true. Everybody does. Every writer does. So don't compare yourselves to somebody who is years ahead of you. Don't compare yourselves to even somebody who is in the same place as you, because you're both dealing with different things. You both have different life experiences. So it's best just to follow your path and not worry about what anybody else is doing. So if we can nurture our creativity, we can continue to learn, we can continue to do those things, you're going to find that a lot of those negative thoughts actually start to disappear, because you're just focused on you, you're focused on your creative journey. Therefore, you don't have time really to worry about what other people are thinking, because a lot of times that's what imposter syndrome is, right? We're worried about what other people are thinking about us, rather than focusing on just creating the best work that we can create. So the last thing I'm going to say is that you don't really need this validation from other people. A lot of times when we have that imposter syndrome, what we're doing is we're trying to seek validation from other people, right? We want other people to tell us that we're good writers. We want other people to tell us that they love our work. And we don't really need that. We need to create the best story that we can. Be kind to ourselves and know that we are learning and we're getting better each time. and not worry about how the audience is receiving that. They're bringing their own history and their own background to your stories anyway, so everybody's going to view it differently. So you don't need somebody else's validation or approval. I think the most difficult part of success is moving forward anyways when we don't have that validation from other people. So we have to believe enough in ourselves to be able to continue to create, continue to be successful and move forward in our career. Even if nobody else is acknowledging you, nobody else is validating you, you want to continue to move forward. So you were designed to be creative and to accomplish your own goals. And to do that, the only person that has to really believe in yourself is you. You have to believe that you're going to get there, that you know what you're doing, that even if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to figure it out, and that you are going to succeed eventually. It might not be today, it might not be, in a year, but you're going to continue along your path until you succeed with reaching the goal that you want with your writing career. So don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about other people's support. Worry about what you believe about yourself, and you will reach all those goals that you desire. So from this day forward, no more thinking about imposter syndrome or thinking that there is something wrong with you, because there isn't. I hope that this has been helpful, inspired you to continue to write and do well. If it has, please hit the like button, hit the share button, and come back and see me next week.